salutations, my dearest friends. My name is Samantha, and today I'm going to be talking about some books that I thought I would absolutely hate, but I kind of ended up loving. Let's talk about it. Hello, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back. What was that? This video is inspired by McKay and Tori. On their channels that they did two videos. They did one where they talked about books that they thought they were gonna love but they hated, and then books that they thought they were gonna hate but loved. I thought that was such a fun idea and I wanted to do it. So here we are today. I'm talking about some books that I really didn't think that I was gonna like, the trope or the genre, and I kind of went into it thinking, I don't know if I'm gonna like this one, and I ended up loving it. We'll preface this by saying I don't go into a book expecting to hate it or wanting to hate it. Like, obviously I want to love everything that I read. Every once in a while there's like a popular book that I really want to like see what the hype is about, or maybe a friend who has different reading tastes than me will recommend me a book and I'm just like not sure if I'm gonna love it. Because I will read anything once. I don't have many trigger warnings. I like books that are just like wild and crazy, and I rate books on vibes. Okay, everything is vibes. The first book I thought I was gonna hate, and I've talked about this book so much on my channel, and that is Untouchable by Sam Mariano. This is a dark bully romance. First started reading, I was reading more contemporary romances, which is definitely not my vibe now, but I was new to dark romance, okay? I didn't know how I would like it. It seemed a little taboo, and going into this book I've heard mixed reviews. Like, people either absolutely hate this book with their whole chest, or they love it, and there's really no in between. I think this was one of the first books I read that kind of really had the topic of consensual non-consent. I didn't really understand it, and even like the first few chapters are a lot to go through. So let me go ahead and just tell you guys the plot of this book. Heroine Zoe ends up getting bullied. She goes to this high school that is really big on football, and one of the football players made her uncomfortable, him to his coach and the staff on the football team, and he ends up getting kicked off the team. And it's his senior year and he can't play, and everyone's real pissed off at her, okay? Kind of like wants revenge, so he gathers a bunch of his friends to harass her, and that is where our hero comes in, Carter Mahoney, who ends up taking it a little too far. Okay? He definitely assaults our heroine in, I would say, like the second chapter of this book. It's very intense. I remember reading it thinking like, I don't know if I'm gonna finish this book. It was a couple dark romances after this, but this was like the first one that I really got into, and I remember thinking like, oh my god, like, oh my god. But I powered through it and I continued throughout the book, and I ended up absolutely loving our character's dynamic. So our heroine Zoe, she takes that incident and she ends up becoming intrigued by our hero and kind of wanting to understand like why he did what he did, what makes him tick, and they really explore the bounds of consensual non-consent in their relationship. The way the author wrote it was just so well. I think our heroine was incredibly strong. Something about Carter Mahoney, he's so bad, but this book is so good. Like, I just can't say this all the time. I recommend this book to no one. No one. Like, the trigger warnings are off the charts on this one. Red flags everywhere. But it's also one of my favorite books, so do with that what you will. This next one I know McKay mentioned in her video, and that is Savage Lover by Sophie Lark. This is the third book in her Brutal Birthright series, which is a Mafia romance series that Sophie Lark writes, and you do have to read it in order. Lark is my favorite author of all time. Like, I just absolutely adore her. I love this series so much. I got a tattoo for each book in this series. Like, that's how insanely obsessed I am. For this book, I have a little diamond right here on my finger. Reason that I was skeptical going into this book was because everyone who recommended the Brutal Birthright series to me said that this was their least favorite book. And I know McKay mentioned this in her video too. I even think Sophie Lark said like this was her least favorite to write, or out of all her books, this was her least favorite, something like that. I don't know. Am I making that up? I don't think so. Someone told me that. I talked to that has read the series always says like Brutal Prince or Stolen Heir or Broken Vow is their favorite. This is never anyone's favorite. People's main complaint with this book was that it didn't have as much Mafia vibes, if that makes sense, because to me, this read like an adventure book. And let me explain the plot real quick. It follows Nero and Camille, who went to high school together, but they didn't run in the same circles. Both really into cars and car racing, and that's how they kind of like end up interacting again. Nero is a part of the Italian Mafia in downtown Chicago, and they need some money, okay? They need some money to make moves and to really establish themselves within the Mafia families. And Nero decides that he is going to steal a diamond from a bank. Camille ends up helping him because she also needs money. Dad is very sick and they own a mechanic shop, and she just needs money to pay for her dad's medical bills as well as keep the shop open. So they end up going on this little adventure heist, and I loved it, okay? Freaking loved our hero. He is so sexy and smooth. Our heroine is just so effortlessly cool. Like, I love. I love, I love, I love. Like, his leather jacket and the motorcycles. It gives me, like, James Dean vibes. And I don't understand why people don't like this one. It doesn't get the love it deserves. It's going on with my shirt today. Jesus. I'm trying to show a little skin. Okay, the next one is another dark romance. You know what? I think I was just skeptical to dark romances. I don't know why I was, because now I've been reading dark, wild, crazy things, okay? Jessica Kane, Pam Godwin, Jade West. You know, like, I love me some dark romances now. And when I was a little baby in the romance world, I didn't know. I didn't know. So I was very skeptical to read Priest by Sierra Simone. This is a priest romance, as the title suggests. Hero is a literal priest. Heroine ends up going to confession to confess that she's been having an affair with a married man. And it's not that she feels guilty about having the affair. She feels guilty about not feeling guilty. Does that make sense? An exotic dancer, that's how she met the man that she had an affair with. As she's doing her confessional, she ends up having a romance with the priest. Okay, a little backstory. I come from a very, very religious background. A private Christian school from preschool all the way to 12th grade. It was tiny, 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 tiny. I have to give you guys the backstory because it makes sense why I was hesitant to read this. My school was so small. It was definitely a big fish, small pond situation. I had 10 kids in my graduating class. 10. 5 boys, 5 girls, including me. I knew all of them since like the 2nd grade. Everyone knew everyone. It was small. It wasn't bad, but there was a lot of purity culture and some toxic religious views. It was not bad. This isn't me saying anything about religion itself, but in the school it was heavy on purity culture, which was a little toxic. And I remember like hiding my romance books when I was in high school. And I heard there was a priest romance. I was scandalized, darling. I had first heard about a scene that they did, like a sexy scene they did with holy oil, and I was just clutching my pearls. This was the most scandalous thing I could even think of, okay? Like, now I've read more scandalous things. I have a reading vlog where I read this series, and if you watch that reading vlog, you will see how much I love the book. I cried the entire freaking time because there is something so incredibly beautiful about this book. Now, everyone wants to talk about the steam, and the steam is great. Sierra Simone knows how to write her steam. But the discussion on purity culture, on religion, it almost made me feel more religious. You know, it almost made me feel closer. The most emotional book I read, so thought-provoking, and oh my god, the whole series is so special. Priest is good. Sinner, the 2nd book, great. That one, the heroine is a nun, or she's about to become a nun, and before she does, she ends up propositioning her brother's best friend and being like, hey, I'm about to be a nun. I'm about to give up all the carnal pleasures, and I need to like make sure this is the right choice. I need you to show me all the sins of the world, okay, before I make this choice. Teach me your sexy ways. And he does, and it's amazing. Oh, the discussion on purity culture, that's what really gets me. I loved this whole series, and I'm so happy that I read it. And since then, I've been reading like a ton of priest romances, okay? I got over my little thing about religion in books and dark romances. Again, I was a baby. I didn't know dark romances were where it was at. The reason I know I got over it, after this, I ended up reading another priest romance by Catherine Moon. It's like a post-apocalyptic, I can't talk, wow, I can't say this word. Stop. I can't talk. The world is ending. Okay, it's after the world is ending, basically. It's a romance between 3 priests, a succubus demon, and an angel. It's a reverse harem romance, 5 people, angel, demon, priests. It's wild. And yes, there is some steamy scenes with holy oil in a church, just debauchery everywhere. So like I said, I got over my thing with dark romances. I'm very much in it now. Oh, I just read this one recently. This one is Without You by Marley Valentine. I picked this one up because it is narrated by Teddy Hamilton, who's one of my favorite narrators ever. When I read the synopsis, I was nervous, okay? I'm a soft bitch, okay? I'm a soft bitch. There are some times where I just don't want angst in my books because I'm very sensitive, okay? It takes very little to make me cry. The synopsis of this book just sounded so angsty and so messy. I didn't know if my heart could take it. Basically, our hero, this is a male-male romance. Our hero's brother dies of leukemia? Cancer? I can't remember. And he ends up having a connection with his brother's boyfriend. And he feels so guilty because his brother passed away, and he's having a connection with this person that he never expected to have. Never been with a man before. His family doesn't approve of the relationship. There's just so many like layers to why they cannot be together. And this book is messy and very emotional and has so much like family dynamic and drama just layered on top of it. Oh my goodness, it is so beautiful. It is gorgeous. I did cry reading this book, but at the end of it, I just felt like this was one of the most sweepingly romantic, beautifully written, and I loved it. I loved it so freaking much. Next up is one of my favorite books that I've talked about so many times on my channel, and that is Strange Grace by Tessa Gratton. This is a YA fantasy poly romance. Now, the reason when I read this one that I didn't think I was gonna like it is because, one, I don't read YA books ever, and two, I'm not really a fantasy girly. I'm not. I like some fantasy books, but I am not a plot driven person. I'm a character driven person, and sometimes fantasy romances can get too much into the plot and the political intrigue and the kingdoms, and like, I don't care. I don't care. I just don't. Some fantasy books I do like it, but anyways, I loved this one. Oh my goodness, this book has me in a chokehold. Dark and delicious and spooky ooky. I just love it. So it follows this town that is very prosperous. The crops are great. Their health is great. And the reason that it's all great is because years ago there was a witch who went into a forest and made a bargain with the devil that every 7 years, every couple of years, they're going to sacrifice a boy into what they call the slaughter moon, where the devil chases them and they're sacrificed. Those are 3 characters who are all connected to the slaughter moon in one way or another. Something going on with the slaughter moon where the devil is requesting the sacrifice sooner and sooner and sooner and does not seem to be satisfied. And there's so many secrets in the town that they're trying to figure out the truth of the bargain that was made so many years ago. I love this one. It's great. I've read it so many times. Next 2 are kind of like the same, where I just don't usually read this genre ever. That is like thriller suspense books. I told you guys I was sensitive. I was a soft bitch. I told you guys that. You know. But I'm also a big old scaredy cat. I am such a scaredy cat. I get scared very easily. Like if I listen to murder podcasts or watch like scary movies, I'm gonna have nightmares, okay? Like in all seriousness, I have struggled with like night terrors since I was a very young kid. I still get them. Trying not to like invite scary things into my life to like enhance that, I stay away from horror, thriller, all of that usually. But I read The Passengers and the One by John Mars, which is a thriller. It's not really suspense. It's not scary. I think it's considered a thriller suspense, but it's not like gory or scary. I loved this book. The Passengers takes place in a world very similar to ours where they're self-driving cars, but self-driving cars where like there's no steering wheels, okay? There's no automatic cars whatsoever. Everything is self-driving, and it's this like really advanced technology. Wow. Okay, they get hacked. Yeah, they do. So it follows like 6 different characters, 6 different point of views. Each of them get in the car. They get locked in the car. The control system is taken over and they're informed that they're going to die. Their destination is that they're all going to crash into each other, but they can save one person and they can vote who they're going to save. And this is also being broadcasted live everywhere. So the public is also voting who they're going to save. And the plot twists are wild. Every single chapter ends in a cliffhanger, which normally I don't like cliffhangers, but literally this one had me like on the edge of my seat. I was so invested in the characters, so much drama and just love. And the other book is called The One, and this is set in a world where soulmates exist. Someone created an app where they can find like your biological soulmate based on your blood DNA. So everyone submits their blood DNA and they start realizing that they're not being matched with the person that they're married to. There's a couple that gets matched. One of them is a cop and the other is a serial killer. Yeah, again, so many cliffhangers. I just really love like the style of writing. The audiobooks are so amazing because it is a full cast, so each individual character, each chapter is a different narrator. And like I said, cliffhangers at the end of each chapter. You have to wait like 6 chapters to like figure out what's going on because it switches characters. Oh my god, I was so obsessed with it. I'm really intrigued by John Mars' writing. Those are some books that I thought I was not gonna like, but I ended up loving. It's so fun to kind of go into a book without any expectations and be like pleasantly surprised. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will leave a Tori and McKay's video down below. I'm going to be doing the other video where I talk about books that I thought I was going to like and I didn't like, but I'll talk about that later because today I just wanted to like gush about books and talk about books that I love. So anyways, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend time with me. It means the world to me. I hope you guys are all staying happy and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!